Anyway.
Chop.
Anyway, we started with light talk about scams. Then it all got very heavy and deep. But now, ladies and gentlemen, the glory, the glamour, the chatty, the hatty, Suvari. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome her to the stage.
Hello. Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Russ.
Hello, was that okay? Was that
How are
okay?
you?
Hey, don't do that.
no.
Otherwise, it looks like I'm making you do these things, and I'm totally not.
Of course you're.
How are you both?
We are
No,
okay.
I will say that
I'm suffering from nearly 8 hours.
You're not making me do that at all. I'm doing it because I'm
in the least.
silly and I want to.
Let me silly. We are
Thank you,
thrilled to
Neil.
have
I
you.
love it.
We are
Absolutely
thrilled
love
to have
it.
you. We love the show. I'm going to try and get you so you're in the middle. So I'm going to have to fiddle about. Phil Dave knows how to do this brilliantly. I don't.
I do.
Oh, all right. We want Hattie big picture. I don't want me big picture. No, that's the last blooming thing. Hang on. There we go. That's what we want. Hattie big picture and us little pictures. Today's subject,
Right.
which you sent to me, and I thought this is great.
Yes, motoring, the fun facts, and what you will be surprised to know. Again, being a bit of a petrol head myself,
yes,
I'm all over this topic, and there are lots of laws which we don't know, which we think we know, but they're myths, and which we should know. So in this conversation, I'm going to try and tell you why you can drive with up to 25 points on your license. Yes, I said 25. I will be busting some myths, telling you all about the strange UK driving laws, and talking about the motoring laws that are considered a criminal offence, which you could go to prison for. Okay, so we're going to try and keep it light and interesting and bringing you stuff which you wouldn't necessarily know off the top of your head. So let's start with the driving licenses, okay? And I thought this was really interesting because I didn't know this.
Tear down the dotted line is not an instruction, by the way.
Well, there you go. I like that, Neil. Interestingly, the sovereign does not need a driving license. Did you know that? I didn't know that. And this is because all driver's licenses are issued in the monarch's name. So King Charles, for example, can throw his driving license away. He no longer needs one. And the Queen never actually had a driving test. So I don't think many people know of that.
Did she never? But she used to drive in the women's auxiliary corps and stuff like that in the war. She was a very, very competent driver. Just to point out, Her late Majesty.
Yeah, but in her later years, she's not going to say, "Hey, I'm just popping out to Tesco's back in a minute."
Unlikely. You don't know.
You could drive with up to 25 points on your license if you are able to argue in court what is called exceptional hardship. So when you go to court and you're over the numbers of 12, most people know that you get 12 points and you get a ban. But if you choose to go to court and you say,
only time I've ever been in court.
There you go. And if you thank you, Liz, and if you say, I am going to argue exceptional hardship, which means basically putting a case forward to show to the court that you can't afford to lose your license. And I'm going to give you an example of this, or examples. So, for example, if you earn your living as a taxi driver, so if you lose your license because you're going to get 13 or 16 points or 20 points on there, you won't be able to afford to earn a living. Or perhaps you're a builder needing your tools in the van to be able to go and earn your living. Or even if you're a full-time caregiver and the person you care for has got lots of appointments and places they need to go that you have to attend to. It doesn't mean the court's going to say yes, but you can legally, if the court does say yes, have up to 25 points and still drive.
And how do they come off? How do they eventually come off?
In time. So some are 3 years, some are 6 years, and then they start dropping off. But important to note, if you do go to court...
Imagine trying to get insurance. Any points on your license?
24. It's going to get tough.
I got to tell you this of insurance very quickly, Hattie.
Yes.
My little cousin Sammy is early 20s, and he wanted a BMW. He's worked very, very hard his entire life. Don't sell much ice cream at that speed. Anyway, he got a quote for insuring a BMW, obviously used, $25,000 a year. The insurance company wants it.
Doesn't surprise me. Doesn't surprise me.
And the woman was on the phone, and the lady representing whatever company it was said it with a straight face. Unbelievable.
Well, no, it's
Levi
actually
Brown
not that
Insurance.
it's not that uncommon, because what the insurers, I just had our nephew bought a car recently, passed his test recently, got his license, and the insurance is asking for more than the value of the car for the insurance. It's his first year's insurance, because what they're insuring themselves against is not only if we have to pay for your car if it gets written off, but what about if you're negligent in the accident and we have to pay the other side's costs. So that's why the tariff shoots up. So just on the last point, if you go to court and you successfully argue exceptional hardship, so the court allows you to drive with more than 12 points on your license, you cannot use the same reason again for 3 years. Okay, so if you've argued exceptional hardship in court and got more than 12 points on your license, you can't go back to court to argue exceptional hardship again. You get
Can I
one
tell you my
shot.
story? I was working down in Essex. I was working down in Essex on Essex FM, and I had to start really, really early, particularly on a Sunday morning show, starting at 6, and I was commuting. And they put a speed camera in the most devious place. I had 4 points on my license at this point. All right. And it goes because the roads go from 70, and then suddenly it changes to 40, and then there's a speed camera. And this is the middle of the night, early morning, and I forgot. That went to 7 points, got the letter through. The next morning, I forgot again. That was 10.
Back to back.
And the next morning, I forgot again.
Oh, Neil.
And
so
then,
within a week? Within 1
3
week?
in a week. I felt do you remember that old Bruce Forsyth show, Play Your Cards Right? It was like,
I
it's
used to
10,
love that.
higher than 10, 13. What a
I
point
used to
space.
love
It's
that.
a driving band. Anyway, so I was in court. First time I've been in court. And I was like, I'm really sorry, Your Honour. And I said, but I tried to play exceptional hardship. I mean, sod caring or stuff like that. I had to get in the studio and play Boyzone records. That's exceptional hardship if I can't do that. And you know what? The magistrate wouldn't have it. Bloody cheek.
You
6
do
months
need,
back.
Because he was a Westlife fan.
You do probably
There you go.
need a compassionate magistrate judge to go on.
He was
that one.
very when I did say, sir, Your Honour, I do think the camera was put in a sneaky place, and he did smile as he banned me. Anyway, yes, and Liz was an absolute brick. That's with a B. Drove me while I served. I served my driving ban and paid back my debt to society.
Lovely.
Michael in Spain is talking about my dad and his dad. He says, I wonder how many points Frank, that was my dad, and Malcolm, that was his dad, would have in today's climate. The number
It's so
is
easy
about as
to
many
get points
stars
these
in the
days.
galaxy.
It's so easy to get points these days, honestly.
Particularly with those 20-mile-an-hour limits.
Oh,
Yeah.
stupid.
Which are everywhere. And literally, I actually went on a dangerous driving course. I opted for that instead of getting the 3
me
points.
too.
I
A
was
dangerous
doing,
what? To learn how to drive more dangerously?
Yes,
well,
that's
no,
what it was,
to teach you about and I was doing
speed
42.
awareness course. It's
That's
called the
it,
speed
sorry.
awareness course.
Thank you, Neil.
went
But
on
I
that.
was doing 42 in a 40-mile-an-hour zone, which
Wow.
could have been my speedometer showing me 40. It could have been. And when he said, we got there and you're all kind of really annoyed, and the guy in the front of the class that's going to give this course, he said, do you think it's unfair that you're here for going 2 miles over the limit? And I said, yeah, I do actually. And he said, if somebody knocked over your child and killed them by going 2 miles over the limit, would you still say it was unfair to go 2 miles over the limit? And my jaw just dropped. And I thought, whoa, I'll listen to this course. It was just put to me in that way.
I've been on 2. The first one actually I really enjoyed because the guy, he was so full of knowledge and very enthusiastic about it.
Yeah.
But the second one, I came out feeling depressed afterwards. But actually, I did learn quite a lot, and the statistics.
I did.
The 20 miles an hour are a pain in the arse, but the thing is, if you hit someone at 20, their chances are so much greater of surviving than if you hit them at 30. And then at 40, it plummets down. It plummets down even more.
Yes,
but I still think it's a bit unfair for being done for 2 miles an hour over the limit. I thought it was 10% plus 1.
It's down to the discretion of the officer who's looking at whether to give you a ticket or points or not. So you're talking about the person sitting in the council that gets these pictures and the stats on which car was doing how much over the limit is up to their discretion. It's not by law that you've got. That's another myth that people think, oh, you can go 10% over the speed limit. So if you're in a 70, you can do 77. No, you can't.
I heard 10% plus 1.
No, it's not. There's no by law figure. The limit is the limit. And one thing that I did learn on my speed awareness course is the limit is not how fast you should be going, it's the maximum speed you need to go. Although,
You know what we were told? It's a limit, not a target.
no, I like that. I did learn a lot on my
That's
speed
very good.
awareness
That's
course.
very
So
good.
did
have
I.
to say.
It
Yeah,
really is
I was
interesting.
really
and
intrigued by
you
it.
learn why
Yeah.
certain roads have certain coverings that they do. You know,
I
the
actually
coatings they put
think-
on the roads and why, and how new rules came into place. Because it's all done retrospectively. Basically, something bad has to happen, and then they put another rule in.
I think everybody should go every 3 years. I really do. And I'm going to come on to that in a little bit.
Well,
but
I
think
did.
everybody,
I did.
Well, you can't, because you can't do more than one in 3 years. Is that right? I think that's the rule. You can only
It's
go
one
to
every 3 years.
Yes, you can only opt for one every 3 years. But most people don't know that they'll be liable for 6 points on their driving license and could be prosecuted if they fail to inform the DVLA of their address change. So people move home and they don't tell the DVLA, but it's an offence. You can't do that. You have to let the DVLA know. You need to renew your license every 10 years, which is something that most people are not aware of because you have your driving license, you forget about it, but you do need to renew it every 10 years. And after the age of 70, has to be renewed every 3 years. Not doing so if you haven't done so, puts you at risk of £1,000 fine and worryingly invalidates your insurance because you are asked the question, do you have a valid driving license? You're not asked
So
the question.
go through that again, please. With
You
this
need to
renewing
renew
of the
your
license.
license every 10 years. If you're over the age of 70, you need to renew your license every 3 years.
And what does renew specifically mean?
Online with it? Well, you can do it online with the DVLA. So it will have an expiry date.
Right.
You need to renew your license so that it is it's not expired. So the
Okay.
question insurers ask you is not, have you passed your driving test and are you able to drive? It's, do you have a valid driving license? And usually it's in this country, it's, do you have a valid UK driving license? Valid is the key word. And if your driving license is not valid, then you will have invalid insurance. So check your driving license.
Good Lord.
Really important.
Thanks
Deal
Julie,
with-
for
what's
that.
the deal with the
after the
photo?
naughty driving course, we all got on quite well, particularly on the first one. There was a bit of banter between us. And I said, wouldn't it be funny to fire the musical air horns, fire Colonel Bogey, and then wheel spin out the car park in a cloud of smoke?
No, it wouldn't be
Not
funny,
really.
Neil.
It would be funny
Especially
in
if
my
the
mind.
copper caught you at the exit
Yes!
and said, you have just done some speeding again. Get back in here. Well, you won't be back in there.
What
'cause you
is
don't
the
do it.
deal with having an updated photograph?
Well, it's
on
so
your
that it
license?
represents you. I've not really. What I realised when I updated my license last was they took the photograph from my passport automatically. Oh, I found that really weird. So somehow they said, "Oh, we don't need an up-to-date photo of you." So they took they automatically took what I've on my passport somehow online. God even knows how they did that. And lastly, on driving licenses, you can get your provisional license at the age of 16. Actually, 3 months before your 16th birthday, you can apply, but you cannot take your driving test until you are 17. And you can't go for driving lessons until you are 17 on a public road either.
I want to definitely ask you about certain driving offences, the more serious ones, in a minute, because we
Yes,
don't normally
I'm going to
associate
come to
driving
that.
in prison. Just tell you one very
Yes.
quick one about the second awareness course I went on, and there was a girl there, and she wasn't how can I put this, the sharpest tool in the box. And she said, you know, the red X's that are above the lanes. I thought everyone knew that is you don't go down the lane. She goes, I do. I drive down there anyway. I don't care. Like that. And that is exactly how she spoke. And the look on the guy's face was priceless. And I must admit, I didn't think that was funny because that is blimmin' dangerous. Red X means don't go down that
It's
lane, period. End of.
extremely dangerous when some idiot thinks, I know, well, the traffic's terrible, as I was nearly in 8 hours of traffic yesterday on a business trip.
Oh,
And think, well, we just use the hard shoulder. No, the
Oh,
hard
gosh.
shoulder is for emergency vehicles, you idiot. It is not for you to just go
To drive
zooming
down.
up. You're
Yeah.
straight through exhaust and you're
I've got a
go
really good
faster.
idea. Let's use the
Come on.
hard shoulder as an extra lane and make these things called smart motorways. That'll help.
well, they realise it's a terrible mistake. Wasn't
no,
thought through.
indeed.
Wasn't
Indeed.
Don't get me started on that.
Driving without valid insurance. I think we all know that it's against the law to drive without insurance. So being caught without valid insurance carries a minimum £300 fine, 6 penalty points, can result in anything up to 8 penalty points, as well as a driving ban of up to 12 months.
Wow.
So it does depend on the circumstances, but we all know what that's about. Generally, the highway code changes. I mean, the highway code, for anyone that's interested, dates back to 1931. And in recent years, there has been lots and lots of changes. But the most recent and significant change is that drivers, motorcyclists, cyclists, horse riders, and horse-drawn vehicles states should give way to pedestrians at a junction. They should give priority to pedestrians waiting to cross, not necessarily if they were already crossing. And that's how it was before. So before, somebody had to be already crossing before you had to give them way. You didn't have to give way if they were waiting to cross. Now you have to do that. Cyclists are advised to ride in the centre rather than on the side in moving traffic when approaching the junction to make themselves more visible. And more visible. I still can't get over the fact that a cyclist riding on the road does not need insurance. I think they should have insurance.
Apparently lights, or apparently understand what a one-way street is.
Yeah, and red lights. I see lots of cyclists obeying the rules, but the amount I've had 2 cyclists scratch up my cars.
Yep.
I see them jumping red lights all the time.
Yep,
and if they jump to red light at a junction and a car hits them, and the car's going the way it should be going, down the road it should be going, it will be the car's fault. And they've got no insurance.
How? Why?
Because they shouldn't have because they've hit somebody on a bicycle.
It's not their fault.
You should be madness.
You should. I know. It is madness. It is absolutely madness.
Hang on a minute. Let me just get this right. In law, if I'm driving down the road, doing exactly what I should be doing, breaking no laws, and a cyclist who is breaking the law, and I hit him and it's his fault, that's my fault.
But a cyclist isn't breaking the law, are they? Because there's no laws for them on the road. That's why there's no insurance, right? They should see, because the law, the highway code differentiates between legally binding and what is not, which is must and should. So must is legally binding, should is guidance only.
So let me get this right. Cyclists are only operating on a should. So basically, the only law that is enshrined in law, legal, is that cyclists can. So it's basically not unlawful for a cyclist to jump a red light. It's just advised that they shouldn't.
That's right. That's my understanding. That's of how cyclists operate. I have been next to a police car where cyclists have just stopped and just keep going past the red light in front of us to cross over very, very busy junction. The police car's not doing anything about it. Policemen are not doing anything about it. I know that they shouldn't ride on the pavement. They shouldn't ride where it's pedestrians only, and that could be walkways and things like that. But I've seen cyclists go through one-way streets, up a one-way street, through a no entry, even in central London where it says no vehicles, buses only. You get cyclists in there, they and it's endangering their lives, really.
In your opinion, would any court of law convict me if I was doing nothing wrong and it was the cyclist's error, no matter what's enshrined in law? Would any court of law really convict me for that?
Well, I think you've got to look at what is enshrined in law is that you should not, as a car user, hit anybody. I think that would be the starting point. I'm not being rude to you,
Hattie, at all. This isn't directed at you. Yeah, no shit. Of course I shouldn't. But if if I'm doing exactly what I should be doing, and right, okay, another case, right?
It's like people. Hold on, Neil. It's no different to somebody jumping in front of your car to walk. You shouldn't hit them on the road. You should be going slow enough or be able to stop in time to not hit them, right? If you hit somebody, God forbid they die, but you're going within the speed limit, they've still died. It doesn't mean you get off of an offence.
But if you're doing
driver 20, to take due care and attention. I know, it's terrible. But let me finish this bit. Let me finish this bit, and then,
because I want you to answer these two questions.
When the highway code states must and must not, if you don't do what it says you must and must not, then you're breaking the law. When the code says you should and should not, It's guidance only. Although ignoring best practice can still have legal consequences, but it's only guidance. Okay, so as I said, when we're talking about cyclists, and it's a big topic, cyclists, because I think it's great to be able to get on your bike and ride to places if you can do that.
Totally.
But the amount of cyclists I see that do break highway code laws, because I haven't certainly seen, and please correct me somebody if I'm wrong, where the cyclists have a highway code entwined with cars and lorries and trucks and buses, even horse carriers, as we've seen. I don't see, I mean, you know, I see them breaking the law all the time, and I just think you've got to at least have insurance. I think you should have that. And I think if you're in a road, you should abide by the rules when you're riding down the road and it's a red light. You should stop. I've seen cyclists knock over people crossing the road because they've jumped. They're not, you know, they're not being careful. And whose fault is
that? The pedestrians? Was the pedestrian not taking due
care
and attention?
Then we get down to the nitty gritty, don't we? Because
I mean, if I'm doing 29 miles an hour in a 30 zone, and then suddenly out of nowhere somebody runs out at me and I hit them, and let's say very sadly they're hurt, then that's my fault, and I wasn't taking due care and attention. Bullshit. I was within the speed limit, and I didn't see them because they were coming too fast.
Well, cyclists are, you know, I mentioned they're in this hierarchy of road users, so they come sort of after motorcyclists, and you've got the cyclists. But if there are laws that cyclists have to abide by, I'm telling you, 50% that I've seen on the road, because I do a lot of driving, break the laws. And I haven't seen one cyclist, you know, in the press or it being reported that actually they jumped a red light and they got done for it. You shouldn't be jumping a red light. You shouldn't be riding on pavements when it suits you. You know, they hop on and off pavements to suit.
Let's go through. I want to go through these questions because I'd love the answers from you, Hattie Suvari of Get
If I know them, I certainly will.
Graham Pack,
Yes.
I think you've dealt with it, but let's knock it on the head completely. Are cyclists allowed on the pavement? Is there a difference if your wheels are below a certain size or young children are cycling? That's question number one.
My understanding is that cyclists are not allowed on a pavement. That's my understanding. However, I've seen cyclists on a pavement, and I've seen police officers, and I've seen nobody say anything to anybody. Everybody understands that children will be cycling on pavements because,
so they should.
You know, that's where they should be. Absolutely. Yeah.
And I hate it when cyclists put their little tiny kids behind them.
It's scary. It's really scary.
It's terrifying because what kind of parent are you? Karen Shortland, I see cyclists on their phones. They're not listening to headphones, etc. Why can't they be caught and prosecuted in the same way that vehicle drivers are? Asks Karen Shortland.
Again, Karen, I'm not aware of any rules and laws that says cyclists have to have both hands on their bicycle. I know that there are laws to say you have to have both hands on a steering wheel. Yeah. Actually, the law says if you take, and this is the crazy thing, I did a podcast on this, because if you're in a McDonald's drive-through, you have to take your hand off the steering wheel to pay. You are actually breaking the law by doing that. Did you know that?
It's a private road.
It's
a private road. It's not on the main road. It's
a very good point.
Property.
But if you take, and there was that person who actually was reported in the news where they were drinking water in their car at the traffic light, something that most of us probably do. And they got prosecuted for it, for taking
but I've seen loads of cyclists. I've seen cyclists with a can of drink in one hand, or a soft drink, and a phone on the other. No hands on the handlebars at all. Right. Let's go through. Let's deal with this. This is a very good one from Liz. I'm pedaling along fast. See what I did there. I've seen cyclists issue with fixed penalty notices in central London by police. So what can they be fined for?
Wearing lycra. It's a crime.
I honestly don't know. Maybe they are. Maybe they're the very few that are starting to, prick up the eyes and ears of police officers, where they are getting a bit stronger and stricter on what cyclists should and shouldn't be doing.
If only they built.
But I see a lot that cycle lane soft. I think that needs to be strange facts. Yes.
Graham Pack. So I know, because this really is so hard to get your head round. I know Neil and I are both struggling with this. So Graham Pack says this: if I go through a green light and a cyclist goes over a red light from the right-hand road and smacks into me, am I at fault?
Well, the insurance company has got no one to argue with, because the cyclist has no insurance. What you could get is the cyclist, if they're hurt and their bike is damaged, and hopefully they're just hurt and nothing else, could go to a no-win, no-fee, personal injury claim,
Yeah, ambulance
accident
chaser.
claim, ambulance.
Ambulance
They
chaser.
argue you're at fault because you're not driving with due care and attention not to hit somebody on a bicycle. And the argument will start from there. I mean, it could go either
How
way,
can it
Graham.
be? In that context, how can it possibly be driving without due care and attention?
Because you should have stopped. You should have seen somebody on the road and you should have been able to stop in time.
You can't
That is what
Almost
you're
right
supposed to
minded people
do.
would
your
it be an
backside
automatic
and you're going to
reaction to
stop
do
and
that?
those is nuts.
But then accidents happen. Accidents do
they're
happen where
called
it was
accidents.
inevitable.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And they
exactly.
don't call them accidents anymore, Hattie. They call them collisions. And I think it's
Oh,
because
yes.
everyone, in some way, I had a chat with a guy
I've
that does
heard
some
of
work
that.
with the police, working on sort of legal the law of the law, if you like. And everyone seems to be looking for culpability. It's got to be someone's fault. If a brick falls out the sky, all right, or no, not a brick. Bill's going to put that there. A meteorite falls out the sky. Someone's got to be responsible, and that's why they don't call it accident anymore. They
God.
call it collision.
Blame culture.
Because there's someone,
Yeah.
and we're so deluged with laws and culpability as a society, and some of it, when you break it down like we are here, does seem really, really unfair.
No, absolutely. I mean, let me tell you some strange facts that you may not know. You cannot let your dog hang out of the window. Rule 57 of the Highway Code states that your
Well, you
dog
try
should
telling
be
that to a dog.
secure. Well, should be secure or suitably restrained when traveling to avoid distraction or injury. And this one got me totally. You cannot drive with your radio or music at excessive volume under Rule
Yeah, try that
148.
in London.
Well, I listen to music and I do crank it up a bit. I have to say, Rule 148 of the Highway Code, because you are directed to avoid distractions such as loud music, because it could cut, and I get this bit, it could cover up other important sounds, for example, police sirens.
Yeah, ambulance
Yes, I
chaser.
understand. It could
We were
also cover up
talking
signs
about-
of breaking the law and it being your fault.
Yeah. Yes, you cannot drive, and this is important because I didn't know this for a very long time, significantly below the speed limit, because you will be an increased risk to other drivers. Police class that, believe it or not, as careless driving under the Driving Offences Act 1988. So
My dad
if
was
you're
pulled
driving-
over for driving slowly on the motorway. And he says, well,
Yeah.
I'm not in a hurry. Just
Well,
let him
fair
go.
play, but you can be a danger to other users. I just want to quickly cover what are criminal offences, right? Oh, you can't use duct tape on a dog, Graham. I just saw that.
As
comment.
long as it's secure,
No.
isn't
No.
it in the law?
No, stop it. Stop it.
No,
Stop it.
no,
Stop,
no,
stop.
no.
Right, come on.
Dangerous driving, criminal offence. Drink driving, we all know that. Drug driving, criminal offence. All of these are criminal offences. Failing to provide blood, urine, or breath specimen, failing to stop and report an accident also comes under a motoring criminal offence.
Yeah.
Okay. Just very lastly and quickly, frequently asked question I have found is, do I have to inform my employer if I'm convicted of a driving offence? And we're talking about criminal offences here, not just I've just got 3 points on my licence. Yes, because any criminal convictions have to be disclosed to your employer immediately.
Really?
Even
I
if-
didn't even know
yes.
that. I didn't know that.
Any criminal offence have to be immediately disclosed to your employer, and obviously it will come up on your DBS, very likely on your, as well as your enhanced DBS. So there you are.
When you just going back one about what was it, leaving the scene of an accident?
Yeah.
If it was just like a little dink and it wasn't a serious one, and we just swapped insurance details, that has to be reported too.
You have to report everything to your insurer, even if back in the day, I'll
Hang
never
on, to
forget,
the insurer or to the police?
to the insurer, because insurer is the person that you're legally obligated to inform. Okay, and if
But you
anything,
would do, wouldn't
is-
you? I mean, if you're going to claim on insurance, you'd have to, wouldn't you?
No, I remember back in the day, they used to say,
No.
"Listen, I'll pay your
I'll
costs.
pay you,
Don't worry
pay you
about it."
cash, leave it, forget
Yeah,
it.
or
And
whatever.
they'd go, okay.
And obviously to the police, if they involve the people, whether and there's conflict there. If someone says, I'm not leaving, this was your fault, I want the police to come and see this. And sometimes you do get police coming up to, scenes where there's been accidents, but you must
Yeah.
report it.
Hattie,
I think we're
yet
we're finished
again,
with this
you have
comment from Graham.
you've
I don't know
shone-
what the legal
Stop it,
ramifications
Graham
are of
Pack.
this.
Next week, we'll be handling Graham Pack's divorce, obviously, through Hattie Suvari of Get Legally Speaking. Graham, very funny, but you're very naughty. Hattie, thank you so much. Absolutely
Thank you.
terrific as always.
Thank
throw
you so
light
much.
and sometimes you just you think, what? And I know, judging from all the reactions, everyone's going, I never knew that. I certainly didn't. We'll see you next
Thank you,
Wednesday.
Hattie.
Thank you,
so
guys.
much. Thanks for
Lots
everybody.
of
Always a
love.
pleasure.
And always
Thank you.
never,
Back at ya.
never a chore. See you
Bye.
Friday. Bye, gang. Bye-bye.